There are a few key tricks you need to know to start nailing your parries in Expedition 33, but the biggest game changer, and also the weirdest one, is keeping an eye on the edges of your screen. See, most enemy attack animations have a period towards the end where they go sort of slow-mo for a moment right before speeding up again to hit you. During that slow-mo period, your entire view on screen zooms out and then quickly zooms back in when they speed up again. That's what you want to use as your cue to hit parry, as soon as the camera gets to its maximum zoom out. That's the clearest and most consistent thing you can use as an indicator for timing your parry. So what you want to do is, instead of just focusing directly on the enemy itself, you actually want to keep an eye on the edges of the screen because that's where the zoom effect is most noticeable. Now, I don't mean you should literally stare directly at one edge of your screen. What I do is just sort of watch the edges of the screen in my peripheral vision so I can keep an eye on that max zoom out. You are going to need to remind yourself to do this until it becomes second nature, but I promise you this is truly the single best way to get consistent at nailing your parries. To get even better though, you're also going to want to train yourself to not look directly at the enemy and instead look slightly off them at something else while they're attacking you. You can look at one of your characters, at the ground near their feet.
My, what lovely feet.
Or even at the middle of the battlefield. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is that you watch the enemy in your peripheral vision instead of looking directly at them. I know it sounds weird, but there's a scientific reason why this works. The cells in your eyes that are used for peripheral vision are actually better at detecting motion. You can see more detail and color when you look at things directly, but you pick up on motion faster with your peripheral vision. So not looking directly at the enemy can actually make it easier to track their movement and time your parries. It's a weird thing to get used to, but it will actually help you get better at any timing related mechanics like dodges and parries in any game. But you've got a few more specific things to consider in Expedition 33. First off, dodges have a more forgiving window than parrying, so they're much safer and offer a lower stakes way to start learning the correct timing for parries. Anytime you come across a new enemy, just stick to dodging all of their attacks at first so you can learn their patterns and timing. And critically, as you dodge, keep an eye out for when you get perfect dodges. The timing for a perfect dodge is actually the same as for a parry. So if you're finding you can nail perfect dodges consistently for a specific attack, then you can be confident you're ready to start parrying that attack instead. Another parry timing indicator to look out for, or rather listen for, are the distinct audio cues many attack animations have. You can't rely on this for all attacks because some just don't have a clear audio cue, but there are a bunch that do, and they're very helpful when you can hear them.
Take cover!
You basically want to listen for the crescendo of the sound effect and use that as a timing indicator. Sometimes the battle music is really loud though, which makes it difficult to hear these. So in the sound settings, you can specifically turn down just the music in combat if you'd like. I keep mine at 65%. The other thing to do, which will actually probably help you even more, is to use a set of headphones instead of relying on your TV or monitor speakers. Unless you've got a super high-end sound system, even a basic pair of headphones will let you distinguish sounds more easily. Now, a few enemies, like these lusters, also have clear visual cues to help with timing, which makes it way easier. For these guys, it's as soon as you see their arms glow, but clear visual indicators like that are pretty rare, so you can't rely on them for most enemies. Of course, one of the big benefits of parrying is triggering those powerful counterattacks to deal extra damage. But most people don't realize you don't necessarily have to parry every move in the enemy's combo to get a counterattack. See, the criteria for getting a counterattack is actually just the last character attacked needs to parry all attacks they receive. So for example, when this trebuchet throws its lightning thingies at multiple members in my party, I can actually miss every parry with the first two characters, but I'll still get the counterattack because I parried the single attack that went to the last character. If two or more attacks had gone to the last character, then I would have needed to parry each of them. But the misses I had with the other characters don't actually matter. So the point is, don't give up on parrying even if you're missing a bunch. It can still be rewarding even if you just manage to get back in the groove for the last few hits. But to make parrying a bit easier on yourself, I definitely also recommend adjusting your game settings for a higher frame rate, like using the performance mode setting on console. You'll want at least 60 FPS if possible. Running a game at a higher frame rate actually reduces input latency, Plus, you'll have better motion clarity at higher frame rates. That's also why I generally recommend turning off motion blur, or at least giving it a try. Tweaks like this won't necessarily make a huge difference, but they certainly can help. You can also reduce input latency a bit more by connecting your controller to your PC or console with a USB cable instead of wirelessly. If you're on a PS5, head into the accessory settings and in the controller tab, go down to communication method and make sure it's set to use USB cable. And while you're in here, go over to the screen and video settings and check that you have ALLM set to auto. This ensures the connection between your PlayStation and monitor or TV is the lowest latency possible. The game's difficulty setting does also affect the length of the parry window, so lowering difficulty is a good way to ease yourself into parrying, and then you can turn the difficulty back up as you get the hang of it. But even though parrying is one of the most important combat mechanics in the game, there are a bunch more you'll need to truly master Expedition 33, and I've got all of them for you in this video right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over there in just a second.